Welcome to Night Coffee Crime. Today, we're diving into the terrifying world of Dennis Rader. A man who led a double life as a family man and one of the most notorious serial killers in American history. Rader, known by his infamous alias BTK, which stands for Bind, Torture, Kill, terrorized Wichita, Kansas, for decades. His crimes were brutal, methodical, and cold. But what made Rader even more chilling was his need for attention and control, taunting the media and the police over a span of 30 years. In this video, we'll uncover the shocking story of his life, detail the tragic loss of his 10 innocent victims, and explore how his communications with law enforcement ultimately led to his capture. Dennis Lynn Rader was born on March 9, 1945, in Pittsburgh, Kansas, and raised in Wichita. From a young age, Rader exhibited disturbing behavior, such as torturing animals and harboring fantasies of controlling others. Despite these dark tendencies, Rader managed to live what appeared to be a normal life on the surface. He graduated from Wichita Heights High School and later attended Kansas Wesleyan University. However, his academic journey didn't stop there. Rader also studied at Butler County Community College, where he earned an associate degree in electronics, and later obtained a bachelor's degree in administration of justice from Wichita State University in 1979, ironically preparing him for a career that could have been in law enforcement. On the surface, Rader led an unremarkable life. He married his wife, Paula Dietz, in 1971, and the couple had 2 children. Rader worked a series of jobs, some of which gave him the access and knowledge he needed to carry out his crimes. In the early 1970s, Rader worked as an installer of security alarms for ADT, ironically helping people protect their homes from intruders like himself. He later worked as a compliance officer for the city of Park City, where he was responsible for enforcing local regulations. His job allowed him to move freely around neighborhoods, gaining access to homes and observing potential victims. Rader's need for control extended beyond his killings. He even became president of his local church council. On January 15, 1974, the horror began. The first victims of the BTK Killer were the Otero family. Joseph Otero, 38, a former Air Force sergeant, and his wife, Julie, 34, were killed alongside their 2 children, Josephine Otero, 11, and Joseph Otero Jr., just 9 years old. Rader broke into their home, where he bound each family member and methodically murdered them one by one. Joseph and Julie were strangled, but the most horrifying part of this crime was what Rader did to their daughter, Josephine. After binding and torturing her, Rader hanged her from a pipe in the basement. Later, he referred to their deaths as a project, showing that he had completely detached from the humanity of his victims. The media quickly picked up on the case, and it wasn't long before the entire city of Wichita was gripped by fear. Dennis Rader wasn't just satisfied with killing, he craved attention and control over the public. After the Otero family murders, Rader couldn't resist the urge to let the world know who was responsible. In October 1974, he sent a letter to a local newspaper, the Wichita Eagle, claiming responsibility for the murders. In his letter, Rader included details about the Otero killings that only the murderer could have known. He signed the letter as a BTK and described in chilling detail how he'd bound, tortured, and killed his victims. This communication began a cat-and-mouse game between Rader, the media, and the police that would last for decades. His desire for fame and recognition would later become his undoing. Just a few months after the Otero murders, on April 4, 1974, Rader struck again. His next victim was Catherine Bright, a 21-year-old young woman with a promising future. Rader followed Catherine home and broke in after she entered. Inside, Rader forced her and her brother, Kevin, to the floor at gunpoint. After binding them both, he attempted to strangle Catherine. But unlike his other victims, Catherine fought back fiercely. In a panic, Rader stabbed her multiple times and shot her brother Kevin, though Kevin survived the attack. Catherine, however, succumbed to her injuries. The police were once again left without leads, but the brutality of the crime signaled that BTK was becoming even more unpredictable. On March 17, 1977, BTK struck again, this time targeting Shirley Vian, a 24-year-old mother. Rader had originally stalked another potential victim, but when his plan was disrupted, he randomly chose Shirley. After gaining entry to her home, Rader tied her up in front of her 3 children, locking them in the bathroom. He then strangled Shirley and fled, leaving her terrified children behind. Rader's confidence was growing. He had no fear of leaving witnesses and felt invincible. He even sent another letter to the police, taunting them with details of the crime, further increasing his notoriety. But despite the media coverage, Rader remained elusive. In December 1977, BTK took another life. This time, it was Nancy Fox, a 25-year-old woman living alone. Rader broke into her home, bound her, and strangled her, all while meticulously planning each step. After her murder, he made his boldest move yet. He called the police directly from a payphone and reported the crime himself. This brazen act sent the media into a frenzy, as BTK was now not only killing but openly communicating with authorities. After Nancy Fox's murder, BTK went quiet, disappearing from the headlines for nearly a decade. But in 1985, he re-emerged with a terrifying reminder that he was still lurking. His next victim was Maureen Hedge, a 53-year-old widow who lived just down the street from Rader. This killing was particularly chilling because of how close Rader was to his victim, both in proximity and familiarity. He abducted Maureen from her home, strangled her, and dumped her body in a secluded area. Despite the similarities to his previous killings, police still didn't connect her murder to BTK, allowing Rader to remain undetected. In 1986, Rader targeted Vicki Wegerle, a 28-year-old mother. Posing as a telephone repairman, he gained access to her home. Once inside, he tied her up and strangled her. Her husband discovered her lifeless body when he returned home, but Rader had already disappeared. Vicki's murder remained unsolved for years, with no direct link to BTK at the time. It wasn't until Rader's later confessions that police confirmed her as one of his victims. The uncertainty surrounding her death left her family haunted for years. Rader's final known victim was Dolores Davis, a 62-year-old woman who was killed on January 19, 1991. He broke into her home, abducted her, and strangled her before dumping her body under a bridge. Despite this being his final known murder, police still did not connect it to BTK at the time. After Dolores Davis's death, Rader went silent again, seemingly vanishing from the spotlight. For over a decade, no more murders occurred, and the case went cold. After years of dormancy, Dennis Rader's craving for attention led him to re-enter the media spotlight in 2004. In a chilling move, Rader sent a letter to a local television station, with details about the unsolved murder of Vicki Wegerle, providing photographs of the crime scene and a photocopy of her driver's license as proof that he was still out there. This bold move reignited the investigation. Over the course of the year, Rader sent multiple letters to the media and police, taunting them once again with his intelligence and elusiveness. However, his overconfidence would ultimately be his downfall. In one of his last communications, Rader sent a floppy disk to the police, asking if it could be traced. Investigators were able to recover metadata from the disk that led them to a computer at the Christ Lutheran Church, where Rader served as a church council president. In February 2005, Dennis Rader was finally arrested outside his home. It was a shocking revelation for the Wichita community, as this seemingly ordinary man, a church leader and a father, was the notorious BTK Killer. His capture stunned his neighbors, co-workers, and family, all of whom had no idea about his secret life of murder. During his confession, Rader calmly and methodically described each of his killings in gruesome detail. He explained his desire for control over his victims and his obsession with binding, torturing, and killing them. His lack of remorse and clinical recounting of the crimes left a chilling impression on everyone present. Dennis Rader's arrest ended a decades-long nightmare for Wichita, but the scars he left behind run deep. His 10 victims, Joseph and Julie Otero, Josephine and Joseph Otero Jr., Catherine Bright, Shirley Vian, Nancy Fox, Maureen Hedge, Vicki Wegerle, and Dolores Davis, were more than just names in the media. They were loved ones, parents, children, and neighbors. Their tragic stories remind us of the darkness that can hide behind a facade of normalcy. Rader is currently serving 10 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole, locked away for the rest of his life. While he will never be free again, the memories of his victims live on, as do the chilling lessons from the BTK Killer's reign of terror. That's the horrifying story of Dennis Rader, the BTK Killer, and his 10 innocent victims. What do you think drove this seemingly ordinary man to commit such brutal acts? And how did he manage to live a double life for so long without being caught? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more true crime stories every week. Stay safe, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.